For years, Linux users have proudly repeated one simple belief: Linux is safer than Windows. And for a long time, that statement was largely true. Linux earned its reputation because of its strong permission model, open-source transparency, fast security updates, and a community that values privacy and control. But in 2026, something has changed. Desktop Linux is no longer flying under the radar. It has become a serious target for cybercriminals, sophisticated malware developers, ransomware groups, and even nation-state attackers. If you think simply using Linux automatically keeps you safe, it's time to rethink that assumption. The security landscape has evolved dramatically, and every Linux user needs to understand the new threats before it's too late. The growing popularity of Linux desktops is one of the biggest reasons behind this shift. More people than ever are leaving Windows because of privacy concerns, subscription models, AI integration, hardware restrictions, and better gaming support on Linux. Distributions like Ubuntu, Linux Mint, Fedora, Arch Linux, Debian, Pop!_OS, and openSUSE have attracted millions of new users. Valve's Steam Deck has introduced Linux to gamers worldwide, while developers and content creators increasingly rely on Linux as their daily operating system. Attackers have noticed this trend. Wherever users go, cybercriminals follow. One of the biggest myths still circulating online is that Linux doesn't get viruses. That statement has never been entirely accurate. Linux malware has existed for decades. The difference is that Windows historically had a much larger desktop market share, making it the more profitable target. Today, Linux desktops represent a growing opportunity for attackers. Instead of ignoring Linux, cybercriminals are now actively creating malware specifically designed for desktop users rather than just servers. Modern Linux malware has become remarkably sophisticated. Instead of simply deleting files or displaying annoying messages, today's malicious software steals browser cookies, captures passwords, records keystrokes, hijacks cryptocurrency wallets, spies through webcams and microphones, steals SSH keys, captures authentication tokens, and silently uploads personal documents to remote servers. Some malware can even survive system updates by embedding itself deeply within user accounts or startup services. Another major danger in 2026 is supply chain attacks. Rather than attacking users directly, criminals compromise software that users trust. Imagine downloading an application from what appears to be a legitimate source. The installer looks genuine, the interface works normally, and the program performs its advertised function. Hidden inside, however, is malicious code that activates quietly in the background. Since users voluntarily installed the application, traditional security protections often fail to detect anything suspicious until the damage has already been done. Package managers remain one of Linux's strongest security advantages, but they are not magic shields. Many users increasingly install software through third-party repositories, random GitHub projects, unofficial scripts copied from YouTube videos, flatpaks from unfamiliar publishers, app images downloaded from websites, or shell commands posted in online forums. Every time you run a command you don't fully understand, especially one piped directly from the internet into your terminal, you are placing a significant amount of trust in code you haven't reviewed. Attackers know this and frequently disguise malicious scripts as performance optimizers, gaming tweaks, driver installers, or system enhancement tools. Phishing attacks have also evolved significantly. Years ago, phishing emails were often easy to spot because they contained poor grammar and suspicious links. Today's attacks use artificial intelligence to generate convincing emails, fake login pages, realistic software update notifications, and even personalized messages based on information gathered from social media. Linux users are no longer ignored in these campaigns. Fake login portals for popular services, fraudulent software repositories, and counterfeit browser update prompts specifically targeting Linux users are becoming increasingly common. Browser security deserves more attention than many Linux users realize. Your operating system may be secure, but your browser is where you spend most of your time. If attackers steal your browser session cookies, they may gain access to your email, cloud storage, banking accounts, developer platforms, and social media without ever needing your password. Malware that targets browsers has become one of the fastest-growing threats across all operating systems, including Linux. Extensions represent another overlooked attack surface. Many browser extensions request extensive permissions, allowing them to read everything you do online. While most extensions are legitimate, Compromised developer accounts or malicious updates can transform trusted extensions into surveillance tools overnight. Installing only essential extensions from reputable developers significantly reduces this risk. Remote desktop software has also become an attractive target. As remote work continues to expand, more Linux users rely on SSH, remote desktop solutions, VPNs, and cloud synchronization services. Poorly configured remote access services, weak passwords, or exposed SSH servers provide attackers with valuable entry points. Automated bots constantly scan the internet searching for vulnerable systems, attempting thousands of login combinations every minute. Weak passwords remain one of the simplest ways attackers compromise Linux systems. Surprisingly, many users who consider themselves security conscious still reuse passwords across multiple websites. Once one service suffers a data breach, attackers test those same credentials everywhere else. Password reuse turns a single leaked account into access to your entire digital life. Strong, unique passwords combined with multi-factor authentication dramatically reduce this risk. Two-factor authentication has become almost essential in 2026. Even if attackers steal your password through phishing or malware, an additional authentication factor often prevents unauthorized access. Hardware security keys provide the strongest protection, but authentication apps also offer significant improvements over passwords alone. Keeping software updated has always been important, but the speed of modern attacks makes timely updates more critical than ever. Vulnerabilities can be weaponized within hours of public disclosure. Linux distributions generally release security patches quickly, but those updates only help if users actually install them. Delaying updates for weeks or months leaves systems exposed to known exploits that attackers actively scan for. The Linux kernel itself remains one of the most secure kernels available, but vulnerabilities still appear from time to time. Hardware drivers, graphics stacks, firmware, desktop environments, multimedia libraries, and third-party applications all contribute to your overall security posture. Protecting a Linux system means securing the entire software ecosystem, not just the kernel. Ransomware is another threat that Linux desktop users can no longer ignore. Modern ransomware doesn't care whether you're running Windows, Linux, or Mac OS. If it can encrypt your files, demand payment, and pressure you into paying, you're a potential victim. Personal photos, work documents, research projects, and business files can disappear within minutes. The best defense remains simple but effective. Maintain regular offline backups that ransomware cannot reach. Encrypted backups stored on external drives or disconnected storage devices provide peace of mind against both malware and hardware failure. Cloud backups add another layer of protection, but offline copies remain invaluable because sophisticated ransomware increasingly targets connected backup locations. Privacy and security are closely connected. Applications requesting unnecessary permissions should always raise questions. Linux offers powerful permission controls, sandboxing technologies, and containerized applications that limit software access to your system. Flatpak sandboxing, application confinement, and permission management tools provide valuable protection when used correctly. Secure boot, disk encryption, and firmware updates are often ignored by desktop users. Yet they play important roles in defending against physical attacks and low-level malware. Full disk encryption protects sensitive information if your laptop is lost or stolen. Firmware updates frequently fix security vulnerabilities that software updates alone cannot address. Artificial intelligence has become both a powerful defensive tool and a dangerous weapon. Security researchers use AI to identify vulnerabilities faster, detect malicious behavior, and automate threat analysis. Meanwhile, attackers use AI to write convincing phishing emails, generate malware variants, automate reconnaissance, and evade traditional detection systems. This technological arms race is accelerating rapidly, making cybersecurity more dynamic than ever before. Fortunately, Linux still provides extraordinary security advantages when used responsibly. The open-source community responds quickly to vulnerabilities. Security researchers worldwide continuously inspect source code, report bugs, and improve software transparency. Most Linux distributions distribute security updates without advertising, subscriptions, or unnecessary delays. Users retain control over their systems in ways that many proprietary operating systems simply cannot match. However, technology alone cannot compensate for poor security habits. Installing random software, disabling security protections for convenience, ignoring updates, using weak passwords, and trusting every online tutorial create vulnerabilities regardless of operating system. Cybersecurity ultimately depends on informed decisions made every day. So what practical steps should every Linux desktop user take right now? First, install updates regularly and enable automatic security updates where appropriate. Second, download software only from trusted repositories and official developer websites. Third, use unique passwords with a password manager. Fourth, enable multi-factor authentication on every important account. Fifth, maintain offline backups of essential files. Sixth, avoid blindly copying terminal commands from untrusted sources. Seventh, review installed browser extensions and remove those you don't need. Eighth, enable your firewall and understand which network services are exposed. Ninth, encrypt sensitive data and use full disk encryption on portable devices. Finally, stay informed about emerging security threats rather than assuming Linux is automatically immune. The reality is that Linux remains one of the safest desktop operating systems available in 2026, but its growing popularity has made it impossible to hide from attackers. The days when Linux users could rely on obscurity as an extra layer of protection are over. Cybercriminals now recognize Linux desktops as valuable targets filled with personal information, financial data, development environments, cryptocurrency wallets, and business credentials. That doesn't mean you should panic or abandon Linux. Quite the opposite. Linux continues to offer exceptional security, transparency, stability, and user control compared to many alternatives. The difference is that security now requires active participation from every user. Awareness, good habits, timely updates, careful software installation, and strong authentication practices are no longer optional, they are essential. So before you assume your Linux desktop is untouchable, take a few minutes to review your security setup today. Update your system, verify your backups, strengthen your passwords, audit your installed software, and think twice before running unfamiliar commands. Cyber threats will continue evolving, but with the right precautions, your Linux system can remain one of the most secure computing environments available. In 2026, the greatest danger isn't using Linux. It's believing that Linux alone is enough to protect you.